So here's a look at the 2020 Audi RSQ8. One of my favorite angles of this, honestly the whole car looks good, but this front end looks really clean, especially with the carbon fiber trim on the front. It just makes it look a lot more aggressive. And then one of the things that really surprised me is the size of these wheels. So for most luxury cars, they don't go that huge, but this is actually sitting on 23. So it's a 295/35/23, aka the width of the tire is 295, the thickness here is 35, and then 23 for the whole diameter. And then you have these massive carbon ceramic brakes, which for a car like this you definitely need. That way it kind of minimizes the heat from, if you are driving spiritedly and things like that. Looks really good with the red caliper, looks fresh. All the proportions on this car are really good, so even though the tires are huge, it doesn't look out of place, which is what I really like. Another nice touch is the mirrors here. You have the carbon fiber trim, so makes it look really good, kind of fits the front end. You have that nice aggressive aesthetic, which looks plush. I like it. Coming around to the back, another section that I love. Honestly, I just love this whole car. It's a perfect little package. It's a 5-seater, so even though it's a bigger, wider car, it's not a huge SUV. This is more for someone that wants a little bit more of a crossover style car, but has a lot more performance, which you can see by the design and the brakes and all that stuff here. So looking at the back, I love the oval exhaust tips. It just looks really good. I wish they connected. Honestly, you could see, like, looking on the inside, it's more of like a garnish on the outside, but it still looks good. I mean, for most people you're only gonna see that, so it looks like, pretty good. Either way, this rear diffuser looks pretty good. I'm surprised they didn't do a lot more carbon fiber trim on it, but either way, looks pretty nice. This here, for the price you're paying, honestly this car is not cheap at all. I don't know the actual MSRP, especially because this one's used, but it's definitely over 100K, and to have all this plastic here that is not functional, or they could have done something different for that price, but it is what it is. They had to cheap out somewhere because they put all the rest, I'm sure, on like the engineering for the suspension, the engine, and overall just driving dynamics versus aesthetics. And then here's another section here where that probably could have been different, but this is just how car trends are. Sometimes they have to figure out ways to make the body lines look a little bit cleaner so it's not just too flat. So since this is more of a sporty crossover in my opinion than a fully functional SUV, let's take a look and see what the back space looks like in the trunk. So not too bad. As you can see with that box there, it gives you a pretty decent reference of how much space you have. And then of course you can lay those seats back, so then that will open space up even more, so pretty good. So let's go ahead and take a look at the inside. Classic Audi, to be honest. It's not anything over the top, but Audi does the interiors very well. It's very comfortable. I love the red trimming on the seats. Has a nice comfortable feel. Honestly, I've sat in these, they feel really great. I like the little RS embedded in the seat, looks clean. So this section here looks good, but the only downside is this piano black. I mean, that's just a trend that we see on cheap cars and expensive cars. It gets dirty very fast, it scratches easy, you see a lot of dust. It's just not the best. So I love the look of this. It's very just clean and minimal. It still pops enough, but there's not too much going on like other car companies where they have way too much design going on. This is way more of a minimal type of setup. And then here you have a little bit more flair because these are actually two screens. One's for your infotainment, then the other one is for your heating and air and all those control systems that you have in the car. So taking a look at the back, the first thing I'm really happy to see is that they've kept the vibe and design very similar to the front. So some car brands, you'll notice the front looks really nice, and then you get to the back and it's very just plain and minimal. Here they've kept it very consistent, so you have that nice red stitching in the seats. They're very comfortable. The design pattern is consistent with the front. And then you have your climate controls back here, which is nice because that's actually digital. And then you have your USB ports right there, and then the charger or cigarette lighter there. And then I love the Alcantara roof line. That's a very, very nice touch. That you don't see too often, but for a car this price, it's not a surprise. But it does look really, really good. And then taking a seat in here, I was actually surprised because some Audis are pretty small, but this one you do have a good amount of legroom, which is nice. And then I love the ambient lighting they have right there, so you can see when you're actually getting in the car. Very nice, clever touch, and I'm sure it looks really great at night. And then here's a view of what it looks like from the back. You can get a better view of just the overall space and how they've laid everything out. Really nice. And then to make the cabin feel a little bit more airy, I love how you have this nice size roof here. I'm surprised it didn't go further back, but I'm sure there's a reason for that. But overall, still looks pretty good.